Hey guys, in today's video I want to show you how to replace a window regulator on a BMW. This is the vehicle in question. I believe this is the E46 body style 330i, and I purchased the vehicle like this. They taped it off at the auction. I do see glass, so I don't think it's busted glass, but I did not take anything apart, so I am more or less going into this somewhat blind. But I have worked on these vehicles before, and I've done a handful of window regulators on these vehicles before. We have a new one right here. It is the whole assembly, I believe, with the motor, if I remember correctly. Yep, there's our motor. So this is a full set for the driver door. Okay, let's get started. So to start, you want to pry back on this trim up here. There we go. This will expose a few bolts that we need to take out. This is a T20 screw. Here's our first one. And our second one. Next, we need to pop this out. You could use either a flathead screwdriver or a needle nose. Basically, I mean, you could technically even use a knife. Something to get up underneath and pop it out. I used a small screwdriver, gently from the front, gently from the rear. It gives you good access points, and then we could wiggle it out. Disconnect this connector pin right here. There we go. And this one you do want to use two hands and pull on it. It's fairly snug. So here we have another T20 screw that we'll need to remove. This is what that looks like. Same as this one that was right here. Next, if we're looking at this door armrest, there are two caps, one here and one here, which we will have to remove. Same thing, use a screwdriver. There we go. Here they are, that's what they look like. Plastic, so they almost feel like they're spring loaded when they come out. And if you guessed that we have two more T20 screws here, you would be 100% correct. So go ahead and remove those. Next, you could just pull the pull the door cover towards you, and it's sitting on clips essentially all around. And this will get us separated from the metal door. Best way to get the process started is put a screwdriver or like a plastic clip removal, basically anything behind this, and just pop a few of these out. There we go. And then you could get your fingers back there and pull the rest of them out. Once you get all of these clips behind here kind of popped out, you'll be able to move it back and forth. And then you could gently remove these and pull up so the door lock disconnects from here. Now back here there are a few things you'll need to disconnect in order to freely remove this. In theory, you could try to get to the window regulator with this kind of dangling. I wouldn't recommend it, but in order to disconnect this, just pull back on this tab and it will pop out of this interior door handle. Next, we could pull through the window wiring harness, and now we could disconnect both of the speakers right here. This one is very easy and simple to remove. Push both of these tabs and it comes out. This one's a little bit harder. I used a flathead screwdriver just to pry up this gently, and then with my other hand pulled this one out. And now we could just disconnect this plastic clip right here, like so. And here we have it. This is separated. Could put it on the side right here. Now we could get to the window regulator behind this sound insulator. Right here we have two T20 screws again, which I just removed. Basically our goal now is just to slowly work our way around and pull this off, because as you guys can see, here's the motor for the window regulator, And that's essentially what we need to get to. So remove everything that's in the way. This will most likely be in the way also. It looks like it's 10mm bolts, but once I get there, I will tell you guys. We do need to remove this. This is our airbag. It's held by 3 10mm bolts, I would assume. And break them loose and then just spin it by hand. Now to remove the airbag, we could just gently pull up on this right here, and that is disconnected. There we go. Once you kind of work around the sticky glue, you're gonna get to the glass, and we do have glass. So the question is it the motor or what is broken? So usually, or sometimes it happens that the metal rods here that move the window up and down get stuck in the motor. So the motor could work, but due to the wire that runs in it, it doesn't go up and down. So this didn't even make any noise, so my assumption is the motor is just dead. So we could actually disconnect that right here, put it to the side. So now option is to swap out the motor itself, or just replace all or the whole window regulator assembly, which you could see 4 bolts right here hold the metal brackets, and then here's our motor. Now we got to the motor and everything else, as I just explained. These are all 10mm bolts. Took them all off. Next step we need to do is actually disconnect the glass from this bracket. Essentially the glass sits on top of this bracket right here, and it is held by a 10mm. So what I'm gonna do is actually remove the motor and then see if I could move the window up and down to give myself a little bit more room. These should be T30 bolts. So remember when the video started, I told you guys that the metal wires inside the motor that basically help it go up and down usually get busted up, and that's what, you know, the issue is. Although I don't see any exposed wires here, the fact that this right here is extremely difficult for me to turn in order to get the motor out tells me that I am probably right on the money. Behind here is like a roll of wire, and it's probably jumbled up really bad and stuck. That's why the motor doesn't even want to turn. So I need to figure this out. In most case scenarios, this is a lot easier to remove than what I'm going through. Well guys, to my surprise, here's the motor, and this is what doesn't spin, and I was able to move the window. There you go. Again, I'm doing it with one hand, but this wire actually seems totally fine. So it could be that the motor just locked up and froze in that position. So I got the window about halfway up, and this is what I'm shooting for. This is the 8mm bolt that I need to take off. You have a big opening here. So if your window freely moves up and down, you can align it to one of these holes and then take out the 8mm bolt, or nut, I apologize. That's a 9mm, there's my 8mm. So you basically don't have to use one of these. So now I could use a 8mm socket and get that one out. I guess these were bolts, not nuts. But anyways, once you take both of them out, I was able to freely move this glass up, and now I have it on the sticky tape from the outside. You could theoretically pull it out. I'd probably suggest not to, because if I remember correctly, you'll have to remove this trim to kind of get it in and out comfortably. But you also want to be careful so this glass doesn't drop, because if it does drop and it cracks, that's another expense, that's another job. So now we get to take out this whole window assembly, and since no glass is connected to it, it's actually fairly easy to bend it and essentially wiggle it out. So make sure you took all the bolts out, make sure it's not connected anywhere or getting hung up, and then essentially just move it around back and forth until you could get it out of this opening. And the only thing I see stopping me from removing this is this pin right here. I don't know if I have a flathead screwdriver, but basically just from both ends, get it compressed and then push it out because it's holding on to this wire. And there we go, with 2 hands, very easy. And now, as you guys can see, this whole assembly freely moves behind the metal. There we go. And here's our old assembly. Move that out of the way. There we go. Now we work backwards and install the new one. Depending on which one you have, it might come with new bolts like mine. So you'll have to break those loose on all 4 corners so you could get them in the openings right here. I hope you guys can figure out how to put everything back together. Just work your way backwards. It's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Don't forget to tighten stuff. Don't forget to put bolts where they need to go, nuts where they need to go, and so on and so forth. But I hope this video was helpful. Honestly, not a very difficult job. Just a little bit time consuming, and you do need a handful of various tools. But if you did find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please consider giving this video a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in another video.